that same guy, Kevin Hassett, who's a part of this economic team in Donald Trump's administration, he'd like to he'd like to force you to believe that this is somehow true.
What has been the impact on the economy of this shutdown so far?
Well, so far, the economy is booming so much because of President Trump's policies that the marginal impact of the shutdown has been small. We're looking at the CEA estimate says it's about $15 billion a week, which is basically, depending if they open up in a week or two, we're looking at knocking a tenth or two off of GDP. But there's so much good news happening in the world and so much reason to be buoyant and optimistic. And we see it everywhere in the data with, capital spending booming and even employment in the household sector measures are doing great, that we think that the tenth or two, it's not going to be visible.
Kevin Hassett wants you to think that the economy is booming, that things are so buoyant. There's so much to be happy about. There's so many things to celebrate in Donald Trump's economy, despite everything that you're seeing, despite how much you're paying for things, despite the job losses, despite the inflation, despite the consumer confidence dropping. Despite all that, despite businesses having to pay so much more, despite small businesses being destroyed by this, despite reality, Kevin Hassett wants you to believe that things are booming. Hey, there's a report over on CNN, and I want you to remember that Kevin Hassett was talking about buoyancy in the economy. The only thing that's buoyant, that's rising with some waters, is the price of things.
New this morning, if you are in the market for a new car, get ready for some sticker shock. A new report shows the average price hit a record high last month. CNN's Matt Egan here for this wonderful news. Matt, what are you learning here?
Well, John, you're right. If you're shopping for a new car, you got to mentally prepare yourself because it's literally never been more expensive to buy a new car. In fact, Kelley Blue Book says that the average transaction price in September topped $50,000 for the first time ever. That's 4% more expensive than the same month last year. Now, 4%, that's kind of in line with long-term inflation average for new cars, but this is the biggest increase year over year since 2023. And that's just the average price, right? Say you're in the market for a full-size car, you've got to be spending an average of almost $60,000. Full-size pickup, $66,000. And SUVs averaging $76,000. So what's behind these record high prices? Well, Kelley Blue Book says that one factor here is tariffs, right? Tariffs are adding to the cost of building a car. It's not just the auto tariffs, it's the tariffs on car parts and the tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper as well.
He's destroying the economy in 8 different ways, just on auto tariffs and prices. So $76,000 for an SUV, $60,000 for some regular sedan, I guess a higher level sedan car. I'm trying to figure out at some point, regular folks don't have access to, elected officials, specifically this president, to ask them direct questions. But he keeps on standing in front of microphones and cameras to say things like this, despite what it is that you just heard on CNN, which you don't have to look at on CNN to understand when you look at the price of things, how it's affecting us. But he says this instead.
But we could be hitting close to $2 a gallon. I'd love to break it if we could, but we could be. And, when that comes down, everything else has been coming down. Groceries are down. The price of things are down. And
you know how those price of things are down. Things are down. He can't even name me one thing outside of groceries. He couldn't give you details of groceries that are coming down because the price of groceries are actually going up. Things like coffee, things like beef, things like fruit and vegetables. All those things are on the rise, bro. Somehow he thinks he's going to crack $2 a gallon on gas, break as far as going below that. He told us like 3 months ago that gas is $1.90. $1.98 is a gallon. Why do you have to break $2 and go under $2 a gallon if it's been under $2 since your ass got into office? It's just a question that maybe a reporter should ask him if they ever pay attention to what it is that he's saying. The reason why their approach to the government, to our economy and the way that they're destroying it is what it is because people like his new Fed governor, Stephen Moran, the guy that he wants to have in place while he also fires another Fed governor, Lisa Cook, as he wants to fire her. This is the guy he wants to bring in. Listen to this guy's logic.
The Beige Book yesterday discussed tariffs, and what do you think the takeaway was in terms of tariffs from the Beige Book?
Yeah, so obviously there are a lot of people who ascribe inflationary moves to tariffs. I'm not among them. My perspective is that tariffs always had the possibility of raising inflation. It may yet happen, but I don't see it in the data thus far.
See how fast he said it? He's always been under the belief that tariffs could cause inflation. He just hasn't seen it in the data yet. He should have a conversation with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump apparently, since the beginning of all this, when everyone told him what tariffs do, he didn't have the perspective that tariffs would cause inflation. Matter of fact, he keeps saying that it does the opposite. He says that other countries are hurting while we are. So maybe he should have a conversation with Donald Trump about it. Because usually his conversation, when he's talking about details, information, the economy, how they determine how things are going to go, they go like this. Again, he just talked about he hasn't seen it in the data yet. This is how he analyzes economic data.
What about the inflation numbers? Because you could say the Fed shouldn't be cutting right now because inflation's been firming up. And I know that Treasury Secretary said it's not tariffs, it's not in goods, it's in services, but it's still moving closer to 3 than it is to 2, isn't it?
Well, so here's where I think you have to be, where monetary policy has to be forecast dependent and not data dependent. I think that the data can be quite backward looking.
His approach is in forecast dependent and not backward looking, as what is that we've already seen happening in the trend. His idea, the governor, one of the Fed governors, is we have to be forecast dependent. You know what their forecasts are looking like? Their forecasts, strictly from the people who are sycophants and part of the propaganda machine within this administration, are saying everything's going to be great. Our forecast dependent data is based on Howard Nutlick to talk about how in 6 months things are going to be booming. How Donald Trump says we got $17 trillion of investments coming in. How people like Kevin Hassett keep saying that we're destroying people's jobs, but things are going to get great. It's all based in these pie in the sky predictions that are based in nothing. So rather than looking at what's been happening and the trends in that direction, or paying attention to what businesses and economic professionals talk about, rather than doing any of that, he wants to be forecast dependent. I guess that's the reasons why he's always figured that tariffs would cause inflation, but he hasn't seen it yet, because he's not looking at what tariffs are actually doing, because he doesn't look at the results of these policies. He looks at the forecast. So let me finish with this to you guys. The Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins, she was asked multiple levels of this question about the economy. Specifically, since she's been talking about the farmers and everything, the plight that they're in. She's the Ag Sec. So and when asked about Argentina and our bailout to them, considering all the money issues that they want to go along with, when asked about it, her thoughts and her response also match up very similarly to what it is that Stephen Moran is talking about. It's all based in sycophant behavior for this fascist president.
Yes, are you satisfied with the commitments of the president of Argentina after his visit? It seems that you expressed some concern about purchase of soy from China or to China. Are you concerned with Argentina? Do you think they could make any amends to the reservations that you have?
I believe they are still in conversation right now, the two teams. Obviously President Milei is a warrior for freedom. What he has been able to do in leading his country and how important that partnership is to America. I don't want to say too much and get out of my lane of soybeans and corn and sorghum and cotton and blueberries, but I will say that I obviously trust the president, our team, Secretary Bessent, Jameson Greer, etc. This is a long game. We are not just putting America first, making America great and saving the country. We're also working to realign the world around peace and peace through strength, and having those partners out across the world are so important. And the idea that we will find these markets for our soybean farmers, we'll find the markets for our sorghum farmers, etc. But what the president and his leadership is just remarkable on all of this. So I am extremely confident and extremely satisfied.
She trusts Donald Trump. That's really the answer. That 45 seconds of her bullshit. The only answer that matters to her and to this president is, I trust Donald Trump. And she doesn't want to get too far outside of her lane to talk about what it is as far as these bailouts to Argentina. That's Scott Bessent's lane. Scott Bessent, who's giving $40 billion to Argentina to save he and his homies who've invested in that country and have a puppet president in Javier Milei that they keep giving money to. She's going to trust in them because she has to stay in her lane of soybeans. By the way, when she stayed in her lane of soybeans, I just want to remind you guys, when she was staying in her lane with soybeans and she's speaking truthfully, not realizing that Scott Bessent is some idiot who opens up his phone when cameras are all around and reads messages from her. This is from a few weeks ago. She said Argentina sold a large amount of soybeans to China when we would normally be selling them. This gives China more leverage over us. So in private conversations, Brooke Rollins is concerned about the state of their soybean markets. But when she's in front of cameras and she knows that they're recording and she has to stay in her lane and not cross Donald Trump, she says things like, we're going to find partners across the world. There's going to be markets for our soybeans. You don't seem to have those answers, Brooke. What you have is a trust in the fascist dictator in the White House who told you to just follow along, play the game, and say that you're on board. And that's what she's doing. These are the leaders. These are the brightest and the best. This is the no longer DEI hires. This is what they do. And as they do it, the rest of us suffer. They get bailed out.